It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson here with two Ians and a Kieran. That's the way in which we're doing it this week on the Anfield Wrap. We are brought to you by Peloton as well, our friends at Peloton. There's still time to enter the Peloton Challenge. For this, you get the opportunity to win one of 3 pairs of tickets for Liverpool versus Newcastle United. It's up to you really, that isn't it? You might not be sure at this point, but you've got to stick in there. You've got to get your match-going goals up, and then your reward for that is you get to achieve your fitness goals with our friends at Peloton in terms of strength and conditioning, which is what they do. So you've got to keep that in mind. If you do your fitness stuff, you might have to do the football. It is possible that Anfield will be there waiting for you. Now, listen, it's always good to get to go to Anfield, and it's great at Peloton to set that up as well. So all you need to do is to log 3 app activities on the Peloton app by the 25th. So the challenge runs until the 25th of January. As part of that, you need to also join the Anfield Wrap team on Peloton and then sign up to do that. If you've got any issues with that, message John. He'll sort that out for you in no time at all. But it can be anything. It doesn't have to just be cycling. There's loads of stuff that's going on Peloton at the minute in a number of different ways, including bespoke designed AI classes for you as well. But on this one, it can be cycling classes, yoga, it can even be outdoor walks. So join the group, go from there. You may well get tickets to Liverpool against Newcastle, and take no notice of me. You'll have a fantastic Saturday night, I promise you that. All right then, we are going to have to get into it though. Liverpool 1, Burnley 1. Oh, Ian Ryan. For me, it's the most fractious Anfield's been at its own players for years. I basically went through LFC history today and sort of tried to reflect and try to find another one. You can maybe make a point around the amount they lose back-to-back in 2020, 2021, but part of that is because there's no one in the ground. Yeah. So there's no one there to be fractious. I think Brighton 3-3 in 22-23 was a really weirdly flat game for a 3-3. I remember thinking everyone's done in that day with everything that's gone on. It was post-Paris as well, and it just felt like it had a certain energy. The manager was struggling particularly back then, 22-23, but it wasn't angry, it wasn't fractious, it wasn't irritated with the players. I think it genuinely could be all the way back to the £77 walkout, the last time I can remember Anfield being that fractious. Genuinely audible booing. It doesn't happen that often at all. It hasn't happened. It needs to be acknowledged. It was not in any way, shape or form any fun.
No, it wasn't. I think that was the first time for a long time where obviously the manager's been under pressure for a while now, and I think there's been a genuine split across the fan base. Obviously performances, the way they've been going, he's kind of stemmed the bleeding a little bit with the undefeated run, a pretty underwhelming undefeated run, you've got to say. But at the weekend, there was people just turning around, like looking at each other as if to say, nah, not sure now, I'm not sure about this. People just shaking their heads. You could feel it around you that I think the tide was turning a little bit more. So maybe where you've got people just on the fence a little bit, having sat through another one of them. And when I say another one of them, it was better than, say, Leeds. It was better than Sunderland.
I think it's the best we played at home since Real Madrid for an hour.
Yeah, for the first hour. I always think, if that...
I mean, the level of opposition.
Yeah, you've got to take that into account because, putting Liverpool aside for 1 minute, they are the worst team I've seen in Anfield all season. Yeah. And we've played bottom of the league Wolves, but they are worse. They are absolutely worse. So you've got to play that into the conversation. When you're talking about Leeds and Sunderland, newly promoted, of course, but they're far better equipped to go away from home and get a result. I thought Burnley were dreadful. So you expect Liverpool to be better. You expect there to be more shots. You expect there to be more chances. And there was all of that, as you said, broadly for an hour. Then there's a bit of a lull. Then they come back again a little bit, but injury time's awful. So I think depending on where you are with the manager, people could paint a different picture and go, if you're still backing him, you could go, well, there you go, a little bit better. But if you finish with him, if you've had enough, you could also look at that performance and still continue to try and pick holes in it and beat him over the head with it, because there's still part of it where it's not good enough. But ultimately, Neil, you've spoken a lot about imbalance in squads and stuff. And broadly, I would agree with that. I think if you're going for a league title, you can sit there and go, well, the squad, it is imbalanced. You're not going to be able to win the league if you're lacking another centre-half, or you still need people in forward areas, and maybe you could have done something in midfield. All of that is totally fair. But the problem the manager's got, that argument doesn't stick when you're playing newly promoted teams, because there should be more than enough to go and take care of those sides without having to call on, you know, some other superstars that you may go on to buy in the future. They should be able to beat these teams. And I include Leeds and Sunderland in that. I can talk about them being better equipped, and they are. They put on a decent show. But Liverpool should be putting them to the sword. You're talking about the champions of the country. So I know they're playing like that, but they've still got that label attached to them. So they've got to show it. And I think where the manager's, he's got himself into a situation now where I totally understood that you lose 9 in 12 and you play PSV, and that's obviously the defeat that makes it 9 in 12. So I understand from there something's got to change, and you have to batten down the hatches a little bit. I get that. I totally get it. But there's been 12 games since then, and they're still playing in this style of play, this style of football where I don't think you can kid football fans for too long. They're now looking at it, and it's coming at Anfield, a lot of this. That's a big fucking problem for them. It's happening. I think it's more at Anfield.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone will forgive, and I think that, you know, for instance, last away game's Arsenal, and I think I'll say in any given season, anyone can go to Fulham and not win.
Yeah.
And also it can be. I'm not going to act as though, you know, Fulham are somewhere between the 9th and the 13th best team in the division. The division, the quality of it now, and the collective intensity's gone a certain way. Where I would argue those sides are stronger. As I said, the same thing last season. We got beat there last season, where we really could have done with getting something in terms of our mental picture at the very least. So, you know, I'm all right with that. For me, it is. Right now, you're looking at, you know, even just something as basic as the league table. Whack 6 more points on Liverpool's score from getting the results against the 3 promoted sides. And the league table looks healthier than it feels like the performances have been, if you know what I mean. But that should still be. And then we'd still be saying, well, if we'd have done this and if we'd have done... But it doesn't matter that to me. I think it becomes about the home form. Yeah. And it becomes about the home performances. And it becomes about the way people feel when they walk out the ground. Yeah. And the way people felt when they were walking out the ground on Saturday. I said about Anfield being the most fractious. I said about booing. People who wouldn't boo and don't boo walked out to that ground fucking livid, is the point. And there might be some people at home who watched at home who felt that was all a bit harsh, and I understand that. But genuinely in that ground, at that point at which that final whistle went, every face that you looked at around you just gave the impression of, I've just had enough of this now.
Yeah, as I said before, you know, there was a real sense of that around me. For the first time, really, even though you've had the PSV, you've had the Nottingham Forest stuff, people, I think... We were in a bit of a weird place then, and you're just trying to get through stuff. And don't get me wrong, I think if they made a decision after PSV, I don't think there could have been that many complaints, really. You are talking, at that time, 9 in 12. I don't think any Liverpool managers ever lose 9 in 12. So I think you're living on a different planet if you think people aren't having that conversation about your performance. If you've lost 9 games in 12 managing Liverpool Football Club, that just comes with the price on the ticket. So, yeah, I think just Saturday just felt kind of almost... not necessarily a new low, because I think, again, depending on which camp you're in, if someone had said to you, you're going to win the league and you're going to finish 4th the season after, when they changed the manager, you'd have gone, probably, I'll take that, because it means winning the league. But then you've got to live the reality of what this means this season, which is coming 4th. And they might not come 4th, but they're currently sitting in 4th. But the problem is, the style of football, I think, for so many now is just... It's just so far away and so far removed from what people expect and what they want to see. And you spent £500 million as well.
I thought you next, Ian. The style of football, I think, is... And again, I think that this is just a couple of small notches. Sometimes, I think it hasn't been Leeds and Sunderland. I think like Leeds... You know, for instance, I'm in a way now, in hindsight, now that I've calmed down, I'm actually surprised there wasn't more of this sort of thing coming out against Leeds than there was after this one. But as I say, I think actually against Leeds, it's quite a good injury time. They throw the kitchen sink at them finally. This one, the crap. And I think that feeds into part of it. But a lot of this, it is feelings. And I think that it's important to sort of acknowledge that. You know, they could have the same number of points and maybe even a similar distribution of those points. And they could have scored 14 more goals and conceded 9 more. And everyone, I think, would at least have had moments where they were up celebrating goal. This is and this is so much. This is so hard, and it's a really weird league this season, which we are going to come on to. But as I say, I'm just sort of seeing people who I know and like, and whose views on football I massively respect, just simply finding the act of going to Anfield and watching football matches difficult.
Yeah, the whole experience of being at Anfield at the moment is an absolute ball ache from half 2 onwards, basically. And I know when we say things like this, there are people who will make comments on the video saying that it's a privilege to be at Anfield. And it is, and I understand. I'm privileged to have a season ticket to be at Anfield every single week. I'm privileged that the season ticket has been in our family since the 50s. I'm privileged. That doesn't make it any more enjoyable because we're being various degrees of a bit shit since September, and we're being treated like we're not wanted from the moment we are. I was lucky on Saturday. I rocked up at 20 to 3 because I had to drop my mum off somewhere, and I walked in just after kick-off, so I was actually quite good for a change. Instead of 45 minutes to miss kick-off, it was only 20 minutes to miss kick-off. So we've got that from the start. So the whole ground, as you said on the gutter yesterday, the whole ground's in a bad mood before the game started. And then you get... The problem with Saturday is, well, to go flip forward, we walked back across the park after the game, and our Kev pointed out that everybody was saying exactly the same thing, exactly what they think is wrong with the team. It's not like there's different people saying different things. Everybody walking across there was like, we're playing out too slow, it's going across the back too often, the style's just boring, it's just, everyone's bored, there's no out ball, nothing's happening for long stretches. And beginning of last season, it was all about control, and yeah, I was happy with control because I thought after Klopp, let's have some control. Yeah, I'm sound with control, and control gave us the league. Can't say league either, apparently. So, you know, it worked last season, and we've rebuilt, and I know we'll get onto the rebuild and the nature of the rebuild in a bit. But what we're seeing at the moment is, obviously after the losing 9 and 12, we reset, we go back to basics. Well, the basics aren't working, because if the basics were working, you'd be beating Burnley 2-0, and you'd be going, yeah, sound, that'll do. We should beat them 5-0, but we'll take 2-0. That'd be a basic. A basic is not Burnley being able to pass right through your midfield and then create 5 minutes of absolute havoc because your team's falling apart mentally again. And that should not be happening.
For me, this is the hardest part, is that I'm all for, I think if you're a football team and you want to be a certain thing, and then what the hurdle you fall at is not being that thing, then that's fine. Like, for instance, it's ironic to say this because we'd almost said they'd be kicking off more, but let's just say, hypothetically, so Bosley's missed the penalty, the Wiertz one, the keeper gets a hand to it, deflected over the bar, their keeper ends up being man of the match, it's 0-0. I think people would still be pissed off, but I don't think they'd be as pissed off. I don't think you get to say, we're all about control and responsibility.
When you throw the lead away.
And then have that 4 minutes. Yeah. You can't have both. You can't have both. You can't say, we're trying to be grown up, we're not going to put up with this shit anymore, we've been too open, we've been doing this, and then have that 4 minutes against the poorest team in the country. And I think that's another thing that adds to people's heads just spinning.
And then not be able to, and then once you've done that, not be able to recover from it. I think the worst thing at the moment, the most emblematic thing in the whole game for me, is the fact that Dominic Szoboszlai, who has been our best player all season, who has been our most dynamic player all season, is suddenly slowing the game up. He gets suspended for one game. The second he comes back from that game, he's a different Dominic Szoboszlai. All of a sudden, he's cautious. And I don't, apart from the back heel, which was trying to be a smart ass against Barnsley, but he's become a cautious player. He's stopping people from breaking. It's like, just break, hit them, score the second goal. Because you know what? If you're weighing up risk versus reward, the risk of breaking and scoring the second goal is more of a reward than sitting on one goal and hoping that Burnley don't get 4 minutes of absolute madness, because everyone's getting 4 minutes of absolute madness against us and they're getting back into the game at the moment.
I believe it's instruction, that though, to be honest. I mean, it's got to be instruction, and you've got to ask yourself
so why would you instruct our most dynamic midfielder to become cautious?
Well, I think it's down to fear, to be honest. I think it comes from them 9 losses in 12 and being in absolute free fall and being in mid-table and your job being on the line and the fans.
But they are 12 games ago.
12 games ago, but something had to change, and as you said there, you've had to batten down the hatches a little bit. And I think there's a fear in Liverpool of teams need one chance. And if we go bombing forward and they get one chance, then this game can go. I think there's a genuine fear about Liverpool at the minute. But it's got to improve, and you can't be being scared of Burnley at home.
Well, I think it's more than fear. I think there's a cowardice.
Whatever it is, fear, cowardice, whatever it is, it's not good enough against Burnley at home. And if you go 1-0 up and you're in control of the game, and I agree with you. I think Leeds is the worst one for me. The weekend was, as you called it in the ground, the best of the shit shows for me. But if you go a goal up and you've got all the ball at Anfield and you're genuinely playing well, you've got to kill it off.
And that's the thing, we were genuinely playing well. There was a lot of really good stuff going on. I thought Jones was excellent. I thought Ekatike was excellent for the first half. I thought Kirkes was having a fantastic game. He was running at them and making a difference.
But the fear of counter-attacks as well. I say there was a few times where Liverpool had a clear break on. You just see Liverpool, Mane, Salah, Firmino, bang. And teams would be shit scared of Liverpool. If I was a team coming to Anfield at the minute, I wouldn't be that scared because I feel like the press is 70-80% there. I feel like the aggression 70-80% there. And teams are coming to Anfield, think we get a result here. Teams used to come to Anfield and think, we can't be asked this today. These are going to run us all over the park. They're going to press us every single ball. And if we're not on it, they're going to hit us 3-0. At the minute you come to Anfield and you think, we haven't got to be at our best today. We can get a result. And it's just not good enough, to be honest. And my concern is it is instruction. And
it's got to be.
It's got to be instruction. And to turn that round, something's got to be said to the players. A mentality shift's got to happen, and we've got to drop the fear because you can't go through the rest of this season trying to avoid defeat. And I understand that targets have changed now, and maybe there is an element of we were in mid-table and we had to steady the ship, and now the targets are top 4. And whilst we're in that top 4, this is the way we're playing because the manager believes that there's holes in this squad, not where we need to be. If I can get in the top 4 and put a decent run to get in the Champions League, as you said, win the league and the year later 4th and a chance at a cup, it's not a bad season. But where we're at right now, it's on a knife edge. Because we're a couple of games away from being in 6th and out the European Cup. And that's what's sending people's heads because people want to see a change and a going toward the right direction.
Well, Man United have been abysmal or a point behind us. And I can't see where our next win's coming from at the moment.
What was a big part of this, Keo, is that I think that specific Szoboszlai moment, because I think it's the 3rd time when the crowd really reacted. There's been 3 where you've visibly seen him sort of pull the pace. What I don't entirely understand is Florian Wirtz makes a great run, and he's making a great run to break the lines, and Szoboszlai chooses not to play him in. Later on, when we talk about the 4 minutes of madness, it's clipped balls up the lines to fullbacks who are on the edge of their own final third. My point about this is, any game of football, you're going to lose the ball. But you can lose the ball in their half or you can lose the ball in our half. And in both of those instances, in the 4 minutes of madness, Liverpool are going, let's lose the ball in our half. Whereas in that instance, if Szoboszlai either drives on himself or looks to play maybe an ambitious pass that releases someone, you know, and it doesn't come off, well, your worst case scenario is a throw-in on the edge of their final third. And this is where, you know, when you want to talk about risk versus reward and the decisions and what's going through their heads and what they're finding hard and what they're finding easy, this is where I think it is exceptionally difficult at the minute because, listen, in the same way the manager's thinking about 9 losses in 12, those players don't want to get beaten 9 times in 12. They've got the pride. And I think in their heads, when you want to talk about that sort of, that's it. It's what they're worried about. We're not getting beat here today, lads. Won't have it. We're not standing for it. And it's got them 12 unbeaten.
Yeah.
So there's a way you can't argue with that. It's got them 12 unbeaten. But in the crowd, and as you're watching those games and living that reality, it just doesn't feel like the Liverpool side that you want to get behind. And it doesn't feel like they're making the right decisions on risk and reward either in front of your eyes.
Yeah, and I was one of them ones at the weekend who came out the ground and was a little bit, that wasn't as bad as I thought. I looked at the stats and seen 32 shots and conceded 1, and that was sort of the opinion of, we put a set up here, which has gone on the pitch, put 32 chances together and conceded 1. Is this really cause to be raging this much? But then I've watched the game back and you look at some of the shots and some of the chances, they're not clear chances.
A lot of it's outside the box.
A lot of it's outside the box. And then that feeds back into how are Liverpool actually playing? How do they look on the pitch? And this is what's really driving this at the minute, because I made the point then of steadying the ship, and that's fine. But we're at the point now where we've turned the new year, and I think Wolves have got more points than us in the new year. So we've got to start playing better visually and getting better results.
If you include the 30th of, just on this though, if you include the 30th of December, Ian, this is not a lie, you're going to think I'm making this up. If you include the game week on the 30th of December, because we play Leeds on the 1st, the current top 6 have only won 5 games. It's 24 conceivable. It doesn't quite work like that because they play each other a couple of times. But the current top 6 collectively have only won 5 games.
I heard the stats on, I think it was
Well, there's loads of them. There's been more 0-0s this season. Ollie Kay's put that out, more 0-0s this season already than in the previous 2. That's happened this weekend. The only team that started the day above their opponents, the only team that won in that scenario was Sunderland, to beat Crystal Palace. Everyone else, Arsenal didn't beat Nottingham Forest, Manchester City didn't beat Manchester United. Everyone, so there's a thing here where things are weird, but what's hard, Ian, is when moments are living down to your worst expectations. So I was sat next to Kieran with the match that very rarely happens, and the fella to our right, effectively just after the Canate incident, just goes, these are going to score here.
Yeah.
And then they just go bing, 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 and suddenly the lad's in, he's having a shot, and it's in the back of the net. And then from 85, everyone's going, we're not scoring here.
Yeah.
And that's again is when you've got a problem, is when those moments or those extended periods of a game just live down to everyone's expectations. And again, this is part of why everyone's fractious. This is part of why everyone's cross.
Yeah, 100%. So I turned to my half fella. It was around the Canate one where the keeper saves it. And I said, 100% these are scoring. These are definitely scoring. And by that point, they've not even had a shot. It's only the Canate thing, but you can smell it in the ground, you know it's coming. And that's where we've got to. So when I'm talking before about, if someone had offered you before the manager come in, you'd win a title and get fourth. Because you're desperate for the title, of course you're signing up to that. But then comes the reality, and then comes this version of Liverpool that is best described as meek. People will not accept that. As a fan base, there's certain things you want to see in your football team. And I don't know what the managers got round them in terms of support and staff. I know the names, but I don't know the characters. But I would like to think, I would hope that there's one or two people in his ear just trying to challenge him and push him a little bit and not say things like, boss, let's just keep going. Let's go 13, let's go 14, let's go 15 unbeaten, playing like this, because it'll probably keep us in and around the top four. It might keep our jobs until the summer. It might do. It probably will do. I don't think Liverpool are going to do anything now until the summer. I think they're probably going to keep the powder dry, unless there's something like an Alonso who he wants and he wants us, then maybe they'd seize that opportunity. But it wouldn't surprise me if they just sit on it now and reassess in the summer. So if he's thinking that I can just get through playing like this till the end of the season, it'll keep me job. It probably will until the summer. But I can't see a world where it goes beyond that, because Liverpool fans, they want to see certain things in the football team, and they will not suffer watching a meek team and a meek performance week after week against low opposition. It won't cut. It just won't. And there's certain things you want to see. Obviously, you want to see the tactical stuff, and he's been proven to be able to do that in his first season. But you do want to see a manager who's putting passion and energy and fight into that 11. You want to see that. You want to see that play out on the pitch. You want to be able to recognise the team and go, I can believe in that. I can get behind that. What I'm seeing on the grass, I can get behind that. I think part of the problem is now you're coming into the ground and you're finding it very hard to see a team where you go, I can connect to that and I can get behind it. That's a big fucking problem for him. That's a big problem. And if he hasn't got the right people around him challenging him and saying, maybe we do need to do a bit more of this or a bit more of that, and just push him a little bit, then the chances are he continues in this fashion and it won't end well for him. And I've liked the fella. I've said on these shows, Neil, going back to when they were going through a bit of a sticky spell, I'd rather give him the time, give him the respect because he's won the league, and see whether he can work his way through it. But you're 12 games on now from that PSV thing, and yes, they're unbeaten, and I get that. And it's mad because they're unbeaten. But
this is back to what wrecks people. But this is what back to what wrecks people's heads. In loads of ways, and that was part of the sort of the howl of frustration. Was we're still unbeaten, but I'm not even one, and I'll always contextualise in terms of the wider league. I think, and I'm going to keep saying it, I think the wider league this season's really hard. I don't think it's as simple as X or Y. What I would say is I think that they are the worst team in the league. So I'm 100% into they are the worst team in the league. Even now, we said before about the number of points Wolves have got recently. Even now, you can begin to go, they've got Brazil centre mid, at least a couple of lads who play centre mid for Brazil, etc., etc. And you can have a different bit of a chat. But all of that, this is me. I'll put that context in. I'll come and do the Anfield Wrap. It's my job to an extent to be on top of this and watch other football and all of that and say it's a bit funny this season. But people have got to have lived realities. And the worst thing, there's two things here again on top of everything else. One is becoming associated with football, a football style that people don't want.
Yeah.
That kills you. No one likes that. And that can also do your players in, by the way. Yeah. Like Szoboszlai's been a hero this season, but all of a sudden now, you got to half-time there on I think Kieran nearly got on the pitch after the penalty. You know what I mean? He was that angry about the penalty, plus other things that we've seen.
And you could feel him missing the penalty.
Of course,
that's what I said to Neil.
He said he's missing this.
I actually said to him, he's going to try and take the perfect penalty here. The mood he's in lately, I mean, I think Szoboszlai's been fantastic this season, but you'd be a fool to say there isn't an arrogance growing about him on the pitch. Maybe arrogance is not the right word, but when he put the ball down, he started breathing. I turned around to Neil and said, he's going to try and take the perfect penalty here. Pace, power, he's going to try and put it in the top corner. Which, to be honest with you, he's got it in his locker. We don't need to do that.
Yeah, he can do it.
We're 0-0 at Anfield against Burnley. We need a goal. And this argument of he always goes that side, so he's got to be a perfect penalty. My response to that is, learn to put the other side then, mate. Put it the other side. If every keeper in the league thinks you're going that way, why don't you start putting them that way as well? Because that's killed us as much as anything else in that game there, because it was 0-0. Get that goal. If you won't get another goal, it's done.
Well, it gives you ages before half-time.
So...
But do you score after that, though?
But the point being is that,
what
I'm saying that was that, they do, but I think the crap from 42
they
to 46, 47.
That's my next point.
Yeah.
So they score, and you think, well, okay, build on that. But they don't build on that.
They take half time.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's the players, as you know, it's the players and the manager. But the point being about this is, I'm saying, for instance, managers become synonymous with football, but also some players do as well. And suddenly there's footballers who now people are saying, well, I don't like the fact that he does this. That's a thing. And I think the other thing, Ian, is the home support wants to feel good. Yeah. We can talk about the game in a number of different ways, but when was the last feel good game at Anfield? I think it's probably Real Madrid. Genuinely, I quite enjoyed Brighton, but I think it's Real Madrid. Maybe before then, I think I felt pretty good against Everton at half time. Because 2-0 up at Everton at half time, where you feel like you'd be much the better side. That's September.
And then Atletico apart, and that's it.
Atletico's the game before. Yeah, you're right. That's September. Atletico's September, and that's where again, you know. Home support wants to feel good, and that can feel like it's really reductive, and we know it's a hugely challenging sport with loads of smart professional people involved, but fucking hell, people just want to go have a nice time and come out and say, you know what, I enjoyed watching the Reds there.
Absolutely. This is like, you know, at the end of the week, people are looking forward to going to a match or watching them, whatever you're watching it, however you're consuming it, it's a big part of people's week. So you want to have that thing where you buy into it, and you want to have that thing where you believe in what you're watching. And, you know, on the manager, where it's hard to kind of almost square it is that, like, you just couldn't believe you'd be having these conversations. You could not believe, having won the league 8 months ago, you'd be having discussions like this. This is a fan base, by the way, who will, near as damn it, always get behind the figurehead. Unless your name starts with R and ends in I. You know what I mean? They'll always get behind the fucking manager. They will, or the head coach. Call them what you want. They'll always get behind them. There's other fan bases who do the same. But Liverpool have always had that affinity with a manager or a head coach where they buy into him, and it's a huge deal. It's a big deal. So there's that connection. So to almost go for, and especially title-winning managers, by the way. So to go from that, to find yourself in this position now, you've got to be asking yourself some serious questions. This is what I said before about the people who are around him. I think if the manager goes out playing like this, in years to come, months to come, he'll have huge regret. He'll have huge regret because he's still in a job. And I hope people are saying to him, like, if you're going to go out, lad, fucking hell, go out swinging. Honestly, go out swinging. Do not go out like this, in this meek fashion, where you are just trying to play football and execute game plans, where first and foremost, what you're thinking is, we can't get beat. Now, you can have that game plan. If you're going to Inter Milan, no one's got a fucking problem with it. If you're going to the Emirates, no one's got a problem with it. Where they've got a problem with it is, if you're playing Leeds at home, Sunderland at home, Burnley at home, that cannot be at the heart of your team talk or your thought process. And it feels to many, and this is back to the point where you can't kid fans, they fucking know. Whether you're in the ground or you're watching it at home, they know the team. So they get a sense of this. So if you're trying to almost get by doing that, they'll be onto you. And once they're onto you, you're banging fucking trouble. And this is where he finds himself now. And this is why I say, I'd rather him go out swinging. And yes, you may go to Bournemouth and lose 4-3. It might happen, but you might win the next two. You might win fucking 4-1 or 4-2, or, you know, Klopp would go to Norwich and win 5-4. And I know at the start of the season, he was getting criticism for being too open and having games that potentially could look like that. But that was in the context of, he was trying to win a league title. And people like Carragher might say, well, you're not going to win a league title playing like that. And you're probably not. But now they're in a different situation. Now they're going for top four. But if he continues in this fashion where it's amble from game to game and just hope that you might get ahead and then you can hold on to it, and that's not going to cut the mustard. So whilst he's still in the job, he's got a decision to make. Does he continue like this? If he does, he won't be in that job come next season, in my opinion. I don't see how it goes beyond this season. But he is still in the position. So we can change this. I know the squad has got one or two kind of holes in it. You've mentioned it a lot. And I think people can sit here and say, yes, I can see where they need X, Y, and Z. But it's still a good enough team and a good enough squad to be doing far better than he is. He's got to use the tools at his disposal in a far better way than he has been doing. That is the reality of it.
Really, really good, that line.
Yeah, clip that.
Really, it's already, don't worry,
Yeah,
it's done.
okay. All right, let's try and talk about the positives, Keo. No, I think there were some. There was more than around the box. Even, I said before, me and you were together, and I was over to, I was in 90 seconds late, but planned, so I was sound. And as I got up there, sort of turned around, all right, how are you? And then saw a lovely little ball from Dom Szoboszlai, fed Kerkez in. And it felt to me like it set a bit of a tone. Liverpool, there were more players hitting the box. I think both Kerkez and Frimpong for the first half an hour to hour are very nicely involved in deep into their half. That bodes well. In there as well, maybe not enough from centre mid or one forward short, you could perhaps say, of Liverpool within the game. But to me, it was far better than Leeds. It was far better than Leeds. Leeds turned up with a back five, Burnley had a back five. I do think Burnley are less good, but it was still I thought Liverpool did have more intent.
100%, as you've already said, it was the best of the shit shows. But you made a point in the ground that Burnley looked knackered here towards the end. Burnley looked tired. Leeds come off, not a bead of sweat on them.
The old Paolo Maldini thing that people, Baresi, that people had exchanged shirts and you had a sweat in this. That was Bijol playing centre half for Leeds.
It was, but it didn't feel like that at the weekend. And I made the point about the 32 shots and stuff like that. And all right, yeah, some of them were outside the box. But if you put 32 shots together against Burnley,
17 were in the box, by the way.
You should be putting some of them away. So, in defence of the manager, despite it being flat, he's put a team out which is created 32 chances and conceded one of them. That is the positive. And we should have been out of sight. Should have been 3-0 up, 4-0 up in that game. Now, I'm not going to go back into the negatives because we didn't go 3 or 4 up. But that's the bit that we've got to take. That hour there felt similar to the Emirates. It felt like Liverpool, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because
we've got to build on that.
A really good European away performance.
Exactly, and Ian mentions there the people around him. Well, I hope that you're right, and the people around him say to him, Gaffer, that hour there, that's what people want to see, because despite the fact that we're 12 unbeaten, despite the fact that the stats are looking all right on the board, they're all fuming, and people want to see a change here. People want to see a step in the right direction. So the positives are getting the ball to Wirtz, getting Szoboszlai to start moving the ball faster, Gakpo to be a little bit more clinical and a little bit more aggression about him when he's got the ball, commit defenders a little bit more. There's a way out of this for Liverpool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There is. If Liverpool put together performances like they did in the first hour or the Emirates, we'll finish in the top 4. And if we go to the European Cup playing like we played in the San Siro, I just believe we can put a decent run together. So, positive-wise, top 4 is in sight. We're in 4th at the minute. We're in the European Cup. You've got to go at it, because if you don't, and you put a performance in at the last 30 minutes in the next game, then it's going to end up getting even more sour inside the stadium.
Players are playing. One of the things that hit me again, sort of some of the match up in my own mind. You mentioned about Curtis. He was close to. He was a first team regular last season, but he wasn't a nailed on starter. Yeah. I'm sort of coming out of halves at the very least at times at the minute going, tell you what, Wirtz is playing well. Tell you what, Frimpong's playing well. Tell you what, Kerkez has done all right there. Ekatike's done all right there. I've just mentioned Curtis Jones. None of those are the backbone in the same way as last season. Yeah. 4 of them are new signings. And that to me is, simultaneously there's been criticism, not least from me, of the people sort of looking after these decisions at Liverpool. But I'm praising those 4 signings. They all look like footballers to me. And there was a lot of positive to be taken, I thought, on Saturday. I thought Florian Wirtz just looked like the best player on the pitch by a mile.
Yeah, Wirtz was brilliant. I think Wirtz is a fantastic footballer. The goal is stunning. The work for the goal from all 3 of them, from the way that Ekatike bursts through 2 men with the ball, gets the byline, keeps it, but the way Curtis then keeps it in and
keeps his head
and feet. And Match of the Day said, and when it finally breaks to Wirtz, it doesn't break to Wirtz. It's a lovely pass from Curtis Jones. Give him some bloody credit. He actually passes the ball really neatly inside the box, and the finish is gorgeous. And there were loads of moments like that. There was a lot of vertical balls going up. So there was a lot of good movement there. But we're a dichotomy of a side, and we're in this weird dichotomy where the manager is simultaneously the fastest Liverpool manager ever to 100 points and has a worse points per game average than Roy Hodgson at the moment. And that's where we are. Where we are. It is, for me, it's like there is the way out, and the way out is playing more direct football. It is not to pass it along the back line for 5 minutes before deciding it's going to the right back who it was going to anyway. Or it's not for Frimpong to be in acres of space. And Canati just look at it and pass it to the left. There's something wrong within either the coaching or the thinking that's going on there that needs to change. But there is a way forward. And the key is Dom not slowing people down. Don't slow people down. We've got 2 very good central defenders, and undoubtedly we're playing within ourselves because we can't afford any more injuries at all. But as you said, those 4 signings that were in the team, which was a very good team that we put out the weekend, are excellent. Isak will undoubtedly be excellent. Leone will be excellent. We've bought very, very well. Unfortunately, the 2 things that have bitten us all season are the letting go of Diaz, which, if you believe the rumours, Slot didn't want to happen, and the letting go of Quansah before we had another centre-back in. And that's been our 2 biggest problems, because we are so short on bodies that we're playing within ourselves. And we're scared because we're scared of injury, I think, more than anything.
Try my best here, Ian.
I know. I was trying to first.
No. There is. I want to talk about Frimpong. I think everyone can see the class.
Yeah.
I think we could see the class weeks ago. Now you're seeing the class in the output. I think it's 3 consecutive goals at home, which, if you are playing in Liverpool's front 3, you do need to deliver some goals. It can't just all be about prettiness. And I'd argue if you're Liverpool's number 10, if that's where he's going to end up, you've still got to deliver goals. There's got to be output. It's not an art project. So I'm pleased to see him look like, he's getting to grips with that. But he is clearly marvellous as well at the same time. But you can see exactly how Frimpong can massively influence games. I would argue against the bottom 10 home and away, but certainly against the bottom 10 at home. And I think, again, and from right back, I thought having that level of explosivity from that side is just, it's such a virtue.
Yeah, I would agree. I think people are, again, certainly around me, people were really kind of buying into what he was doing, because all of a sudden there's a directness, there's a want and a desire to have a go at your full-back and go past him when he's pushing up and stuff. And his first thought is to use his pacing, hopefully, get past his man and put a cross in. Obviously, he's not going to be that tested defensively against the Burnley. You wouldn't think. But yeah, certainly going forward, I think there's something around maybe his final ball. There's still a little bit of work to be done in terms of his execution and just getting some of that right.
Do you think that's his execution, or do you think that's our numbers and movements in the box? Because what I think's hard for him, if it felt like it was the fire. So, for instance, if you remember Neville and Beckham,
yeah,
and by the way, Neville's not like the Anfield Wrap to praise Neville, but Neville put an excellent ball in. Let's be clear about that. But one of the things that Neville would do, partially because Neville would put an excellent ball in, is you'd almost get Beckham set. It was almost like a free kick. What I think's hard, and Beckham would do the opposite for Neville. At times, it'd almost be like he'd
lay it back and he's
exactly where you want.
I know, yeah.
I think what's hard, where I've got a bit of sympathy for Frimpong on this, because I think people will end up saying this about him, but by virtue of the fact that he stands his full-back up, say 14 yards from his own byline, then puts it past him, then beats him for pace. So by the time he gets the ball, 2 things are true. 1, he's fucking travelling, and 2, the ball's approaching the byline. So he's not going to be able to genuinely pick someone out. He's putting it into an area. And so I wonder if the aim here isn't to say, Jeremy, we need that to be a bit better. It's for the other players to go, but when he's there, he can only really put it there. I'll attack that space. And that was what was annoying me. I was like, lads, someone just want to go front post here. Because he's dangling that carrot there. And then ours were like, well, I'll go pen spot. That doesn't help him. And because he can only get there and do what he can do. And I think that we're going to have to, maybe it's collective work on, when Jeremy hits that spot, we need one man there, one man, or attacking there.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think when I say it in terms of, it might have to improve his final ball, I'm not necessarily talking about yesterday or Saturday, I should say, because I think there were times where he's just putting into a good area and you'd expect the midfielder or a centre forward to be in and around that position. But I think when you see some of the stuff at Arsenal, maybe decision making, you could go, it's not quite there. But listen, he's not long back from an injury and stuff like that. So there's absolutely something to work with. I think you could say the same about the full back on the other side. There's times when he gets into some really good positions, doesn't always get the ball.
Should probably have a shot that first one.
I would have said, I've not seen it back, but I thought he should have had a shot. And again, some of it's around decision making, but certainly in the case of Kerkez, he is still a young footballer, just turned 22. I think there's loads in his recent performances to suggest it's going in the right way. It's
going in the right direction. We got early on.
Absolutely. And I thought some of that was over the top, by the way. It was over the top. But I think you're seeing a player now who's just growing a little bit more in confidence. There's still this weird relationship between him and Gakpo where he doesn't get used when you think he probably should get used and stuff. But there's absolutely something to kind of hang your hat on with him. And the same with Frimpong. I thought both of them equipped themselves really, really well. I think you're right about Vert. I thought it was a great performance. Really enjoyed watching him play. You're starting to see those little movements now where he is just going past players in that kind of silky style that you saw when he was playing in Germany and stuff. And there was one where he just breaks into the box. I think it's a ball from Szoboszlai. He's ever so close to just poking it past the goalkeeper. Doesn't quite come off. The finish was brilliant. The goal's brilliant. Liverpool go direct for the goal. Yeah. It doesn't have to be. You've got to hit every single man on the way to the penalty box. You can miss people out, you can. And they do it for that goal. And it's brilliant by Ekitike. It's absolutely brilliant. I thought he had a game where he wasn't quite in the game at all times, but there was enough flashes. And what he does for the goal, Ekitike, it's sensational. The takedown, the movement, the kind of the ability to go past a man, and obviously Jones does well to kind of lay it off and stuff, and it's a great finish. You can do that. You can be a bit more direct. I know maybe the manager won't like that because there's a bit more risk to it. It might come straight back at you.
I know, but in the same way, if you're going to, for instance, say, well, when you do X, that's because the manager wants it, but if you do Y, you don't get to go with the manager won't want that. So, we don't know, and we don't get to know that, but that they did do it.
Yeah, and to be fair, he has said in the past, he's fine with it going direct at certain times, but obviously he would like more control in other moments as well. But that was a great goal, and as I say, everyone played a part in it. I think on Ekitike, I think it was a good performance and there was flashes, but I think there are times where, and it maybe comes back to the Frimpong thing, there are times when he's doing so much, he's not necessarily in the penalty area. And that's a bit of a problem, and I can see why, there may have been this thought process around having another centre forward up with him, because you can absolutely see how that would work, how that would dovetail when he's working off someone. Now the problem is Liverpool haven't really played that way for a long time. They've always had the front three, you mentioned them before, so that's a shift. But you can see how he would absolutely be able to work off someone, because he's a brilliant forward in the sense that he's doing a bit of everything and he can score goals. He's proven that. But there are just times where if you're looking for a focal point, he's not there because he's out, he's moved to the left or he's moved to the right, or he's dropped off and he's kind of taking it to feet and stuff like that. So again, there's things to work on there.
I think his biggest problem on Saturday is he can't play next to Ekitike and he can't be subbed for Ekitike.
Yeah.
And that's what's, he ends up, because I think the similar thing with Wirtz's performance, I'd argue, until 60 minutes is a 9 out of 10. It probably finishes an 8 or a 7 because
he tires a little bit.
Well, everyone runs out of gas, and also your teammates are running out of gas, and suddenly you 1-1. And everyone's decision making is a bit poorer, a bit more frantic. This is, one of the things that I think is doing them in, is that they're all looking around and they know there's no cavalry. The better players are all looking around going, well, it's us, or a bit of luck, and that's what's hard for them. I think with it, Keo, the next sort of phase of it is just maybe getting a bit more commitment into the penalty area. And I'm struck by not only. We're all, I think it's now fair to say, everyone around this table is an admirer of Curtis. But I'm struck by how few shots he's had, how few shots he has. So Szoboszlai, if you take the ones out from outside the box, there's not much action inside the box. One of the reasons why people are frustrated with McAllister, I think, is he is actually getting some decent chances inside the penalty area. He's the one who is getting some, but he's not hitting the back of the net with any of them. I think, one of my things was, there's positives here, lads, but one or two more of you could gamble. And if Ekitike's pulled left, someone else has got to go and play centre forward.
I think one of the gambles, the word will just be a little more fierce on the ball, because I want to see Liverpool commit more players. I want to see Liverpool move the ball faster. I want to see Liverpool, scare teams again, because I made the point before, if I was the opposition team coming to Anfield at the minute, I wouldn't be fearful. I wouldn't be fearful at all. But we've got the players to scare people. We have got the players.
The moment when Wirtz dances his way into the box and is just tackled at the last moment before he's about to pull the trigger, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see a player who's willing to commit like that.
And despite me saying there's 32 shots, I think that's something Liverpool need to do more in general. Liverpool need to shoot more. Liverpool need to test goalkeepers more, test defenders more, because Burnley, as we've said 3 times, we're the worst team in the league. We've got the players to hit them, and although I feel a little bit for the manager in the sense of you can only turn to Chiesa and can only turn to Ingamoa. Well, if you know that, go at them in 60 then. Because if you think that between 60 and 80, you haven't got the options off the bench to change it, then start the game and blow them out the blocks. Because if Burnley come to Anfield and Liverpool from the first minute on them, pressing them, scaring them, committing them, eventually by about 30 minutes they're going to go, this is going to be a long day, this, and then you'll get a goal.
Or if you do score and it takes till 42, just make sure that their life is a living hell till the half-time whistle goes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't be dawdling over corners.
Exactly.
Don't be dawdling over corners.
And this is why people are so frustrated doing it, because we've got the players to do it. And when you're seeing Szoboszlai slow things down, or you're seeing Liverpool being a little bit too cautious, people are going to get angry. Because at the minute, we need to go...
These are the games where we go in expecting to be 3-0 up on 60 and Ngamo to have half an hour, Chiesa to have half an hour to show they can actually do with a little more time than they're given. And that's what we're missing at the moment. We're missing that determination to put things to bed like that. And
look, we've got how many weeks left in January? I don't think Liverpool are going to sign any players. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to go into the transfer talk, but I think this is the squad that we've got now for the rest of the season. So if the manager has got a little bit of concern over his options off the bench, then he's got to change what we do from the start of games, because I fully believe if we're on it more at the weekends and we come out the blocks a little bit faster, then that game does get wrapped up 2 or 3-0.
Yeah.
And what's hurt us there is this cautious, and I mentioned it might be a fear, I don't know, you'd have to ask Arnie Slot, but I do think there's a genuine fear if we commit too much, they only need one chance to score. So there's this little situation where we go, just be a little bit more cautious, because we will get some chances in this game. We don't need to go full pelt to get chances against Burnley. But I'd argue different. I'd argue that we did need to. I think if Liverpool put more on the line at the weekend, we're 2-3-0 up by half time.
Because we didn't commit and they scored anyway.
And then you can manage the game properly. And then you talk about 3 games a week and not having the squad and stuff like that. I was screaming it in the ground. At 1-0 up, that was a chance to go and get your second, get your players off that have got to play on Wednesday night and see that game out.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And we didn't give ourselves the opportunity to do that, because at 1-0, if Liverpool go and get a second or third, now you're looking to go, well, we've got Marseille on Wednesday, we've only got Frimpong, but get him off, Ekatike, get him off, and just see the game out. And it makes it much easier for the manager on Wednesday. But what happens? We don't go at it. We're too cautious. Burnley get a goal, and now you're running for 90. Now your players are going in injury time and throwing things at it, which is we had to, but it's not what we want.
Yeah, I think there was definitely an instance where in the first half where I think it was Gakpo could have kept it in and like Burnley weren't set and he chose to then let it go out for a corner instead. And I think, well,
I remember that one.
Now they are going to be set. And by the way, we're not great at corners, so let's just keep the ball in because you could have. And as I say, they were a little bit at sea, and it's things like that where you think you could put the foot down. Like Burnley at home should be. And I know people will say there's no easy games in the Premier League.
But that has to be the easiest one.
That's the one.
But in the case of Burnley, they've gone everywhere. They've beaten Wolves away when Wolves were a mess, and they've got a point at Bournemouth. Everywhere else, everyone has taken care of them because they're not a very good side. That is the reality of it. They're a really, really poor team, as I said before. They're the worst team I've seen in Anfield this season for a team coming to our place, because you can't count Liverpool. So they are a really, really bad team. So you'd expect them to take care of business, and as I say, they made such hard work of it. On the midfield, you mentioned before, Curtis, I was disappointed with the midfield. I thought Curtis had a bit of a strange game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought Szoboszlai had a really weird game, and I thought Gravenberch again was a little bit anonymous, if I'm honest. I think there's a lot of games now where, and I listen to the ratings and stuff that you'll do with, and a lot of the times people are almost, they can't really remember what Gravenberch's done in the match. And that's a little bit of a problem.
Best player last season.
And I'm a big fan of his. Listen, I've talked on these shows where I've wanted Liverpool to go and buy another midfield. I think there does need to be more competition in there. But I think as a collective, I was disappointed with them. I felt at times when Burnley did get on the ball, which wasn't very often, but he still found it easy to play through. And I've said that a lot, and I've said that going back into last season as well, you could see little snippets of it where you can see like there's too many gaps. Now Liverpool had such a lead last season, and they had Mo Salah playing brilliantly and was just, prominent in every single game at the season of his life and stuff. It didn't really matter that much. Liverpool were more often than not finding themselves in good positions in football matches, but you could see even then that there was just times where teams were finding it a little bit easy to play out and stuff, and there was big spaces in the middle of the park. That hasn't gone away, and what it has done, teams have got more data and have been able to look at it and go, you will get space in there, you can play through this Liverpool team, and they've been able to do that. And again, you know, it's down to the opposition. Burnley don't really expose it that often, but it is something I keep coming back to, where I sit up quite high, you can just see big gaps all the time between the midfielders, and I thought, again, at the weekend, there was an example where, as a collective, they didn't really work well together at all, I didn't think.
Okay, excellent stuff. Listen, we're going to go on and talk about Marseille in a second or two, but first and foremost, we started the new album of the week feature. Well done, Beth, last week. Very much enjoyed Olivia Dean. This week I'm going to throw back in with Salt, S-A-U-L-T. Another easy one for you. We'll get it harder as the weeks wear on, don't worry about that, but I think most of you who listen to the Anfield Wrap will be able to enjoy Salt. The new album's called Chapter 1. There's a lot of work they've put out in the last 6 or 7 years. I think this is amongst the most coherent, but within it there's a lovely little tension around all the wonderful affirmations. Every now and again there's a tension in there that I think adds a great deal to it, so very much enjoyed it across the last 7 days or so. So Salt, S-A-U-L-T, Chapter 1, album of the week.
Salt's our boss.
There we are, Salt our boss. Ian in on that one, and he enjoyed Great Lakes as well, so we're very in Salmon at the moment. As I said, it's easy at the minute. It's going to get tougher. It's going to get more raucous, more electro, more art, nonsense, more stuff that you hate. Look forward to that in weeks to come. Coming up, we're live in loads of ways. We're going to be in Australia and New Zealand, the AnfieldWrap.com/TAW live for that. Australia and New Zealand in the March international break. Really looking forward to that. We're going to be in Ireland in February in the run up to the Manchester City home game. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Limerick, Dublin, Derry, Belfast. That's the run in that one right the way along before the Manchester City game. Do check that out as well, and the same link applies. The AnfieldWrap.com/TAW live. Tickets are going very, very quickly in Ireland. I'd like them to go faster in Australia and New Zealand, and that's down to you. There is, on the day, if you're in Liverpool, you come into the match for the game against Newcastle, Peloton involved in that as well. There is, in the Munro upstairs, there's going to be a quiz to raise money for Amelia Bonner, running the London Marathon for Alder Hay. I am doing the quiz, writing the quiz. There'll be no cheating. I'll make it practically impossible, but don't even try anyway. We work on a code here. It's quite a tight one. And I'm really looking forward to doing it. It should be a lot of fun as well, the quiz. It will be a lot of Liverpool, but other matters will come up over the course of that. And lastly, we are going to do, in the Munro as well, from 4:30 against Bournemouth, we're going to cover the whole game for you, including doing what will pass for commentary from 5:30, give you the best possible chance to sync. I don't think there'll be that much of a delay. We haven't done one of those since the pandemic, to be honest with you. But Bournemouth, it's a really small allocation. The half-5 appealed, end of January. So we thought we'll do something there in the Munro, upstairs. And whilst we're there, obviously, it'll be a bit like Test Match Special, which might not make sense for a number of you, but it'll be different commentators coming in and out as it wears on. All Anfield Wrap contributors, and then it'll be post-match pint and the ratings live afterwards as well, so that's a big one. So do check that out next week for Bournemouth. Hopefully it's good. I think it will be, not because of Liverpool, but because of Bournemouth. They're a side that are constantly entertaining. They're also 15th, which is part of my wider thesis that no one's as good as you think they are. All right then, Marseille and what they're going to do, Kieran. It's a massive opportunity to find a way into that last 16 relatively automatically. I think a win there. Listen, the way we're playing at home at the minute, Karabag at home doesn't feel like a gimme. And I don't think Liverpool want it to be one where you feel like goal difference is a factor. 16 points will probably be enough for some teams, but it won't be for others. And goal difference, therefore, will be the decider. I don't think this Liverpool side at the minute can mentally handle the idea of you need to beat Karabag by 4 or 5. So therefore, they'd just be better off just beating Marseille.
I couldn't handle it either. never mind Liverpool. And to be honest with you, I just want to see 2 wins. I'm not really interested in the table or anything like that. I want to see Liverpool put 2 performances together because, I feel like I've been saying this for weeks on end, to be honest. I want to see Liverpool put in a performance for 90 minutes, because I said before, we've seen 60 minutes here, we've seen a half of Everton, you've seen glimpses of it.
They arguably do it at Inter Milan.
Inter Milan, exactly, and San Siro's a really, really tough place to go. Yeah. And Liverpool went there and put in what I'd call a proper European performance. And I was made up with it. I was comparing it to old Rafa Benitez sides who go in there and getting the job done.
Ditto Arsenal.
They've got to go and get the job done in Marseille, because it's going to relieve a lot of pressure, not just on the players, mostly on the manager, but also just the general feel around the place at the minute. Like, it's we heard it at Anfield at the weekend. The final whistle went and there's boos. Now that can't happen 2, 3, 4, 5 times. It's not going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And by the time Liverpool play at Anfield again, I'd like to see a win under the belt. So please put in a performance. Please do an Inter Milan and a San Siro, because it's massively important, because the Champions League now is, for me, the be-all and end-all of this season. Like, I'd take finishing 10th to go and win the European Cup.
Of course.
And you can sit there and say, how's this team going to win the European Cup? But I've seen worse Liverpool sides go and win European Cups.
Dortmund got to the final 2-3 years ago.
So we know it can be done. And I've mentioned a few times on shows about this Liverpool team feels as if it's built and set up to play against good sides. And it's one of the reasons why we struggle so much against shite is because the league is frustrating them at the minute. And I think the European Cup is a chance to do your thing and play your football. But if we put in a performance like we did against Burnley, if we go to Marseille and be cautious, if we show them too much respect, they'll hate you. So Liverpool have got to put in a San Siro performance, a really clever, mature European performance. I said performance 10 times there, I think, in a couple of seconds.
Relentless.
Relentless.
Relentless performance. Marseille beat Newcastle before Christmas in what was a very even game. Ian, Newcastle scored first, Marseille got 2 just after half-time. Neither side absolutely hit the straps, but results are results in Europe and in everything, but Marseille got them. They scored 5 on Saturday, I think against Angers. De Zerbi's the manager. I think it's not going to be a gimme. I don't think anyone thinks it is. I think everyone looked at Liverpool's European draw aways, and especially European experts, and felt Liverpool have had a bit of a tough one there. But so far, they've actually managed to deal with that hand relatively well. Galatasaray aside, it's one where you want to see what Keo's described there. You want to see that maturity, but you do also want to see Liverpool be carrying threat.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a hard game. I mean, I'd take it as a hard game any time, but where we are at the moment, we're a basket case right now. So I think what gives me surety that we've got the possibility of doing something, if surety of the possibility is actually a thing, is the Arsenal game. Because Arsenal, to me, that performance we put in at Arsenal, that's an old-style European game. Just go away, soak it up. And if you've got a centre-forward on the pitch, then you've got more chance of scoring a goal. And the one thing we were missing against Arsenal was Ekatike. So what we did at Arsenal, where we just soaked up everything in the first half and then started playing football in the second half, that's the kind of performance I can see us doing at Marseille. I'd like to think we can beat them. I'm not convinced of anything that we do at the moment, but it needs to happen. We can't not.
De Zerbi will have a plan because he's De Zerbi. We've seen that enough. But the plan won't be stopping Liverpool. The plan will be, this is how we're going to score some goals against them. That's the sort of manager he is. And Liverpool, I think, will have to bear that in mind. What are you doing with the side?
I think you'll probably go all the midfielders, I'd imagine. I mean, if it was me, I probably would I'd drop Gakpo, I think. And I'd have Verts just off Ekatike and I'd play the 4 midfielders. So you've got McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai and Jones. I think I'd go like that, to be honest. I think Gakpo just continues to frustrate. And listen, at some point he will score. You know, he scores 2 at the weekend. And it would have been a bit mad because his performance was, again, massively frustrating. But on a different day, they haven't got lads on the line and he has 2 goals. So the manager might still go for Gakpo because we know he really, really likes him. But I'm finding him a really, really tough watch, to be honest. And I think if it was me, I'd set up as I've outlined there.
No change to the back.
What moves has he got, really? I mean, people might say Robertson and stuff, but I think Kerkis is playing pretty well defensively, to be honest.
Robert was good when he came on.
So I just don't see that. I just don't see him doing that. I don't think it's a game where you can mess about too much, to be honest. The centre halves are the centre halves.
My thing is, I would not be starting Kerkis at Bournemouth. If you think about what he did to him, it was with Semenyo, don't get me wrong, but what he did to him first game, Iriola's a clever man. You know, give him a football that he knows inside out. So I'd be going Kerkis. Big game from Kerkis, Robertson back in, and then Kerkis again against Karabag, if you see what I mean. And that way you're looking after Kerkis. Yeah. You give Robertson that little one in the gap and go from there. But that's my thing. That's
maybe so. And listen, they can't play every game. They're going to have to have an eye on, you know, fitness and stuff and not pushing some of these lads too far. We know the squad's, you know, being stretched a little bit. So maybe he'll do that. But we don't
know at the minute, by the way, whether or not Salah's anywhere near it. It might be that Salah can't even travel.
They were in talks, weren't they, with him to see whether he could be part of it and stuff. But you'd imagine it could be touch and go for Marseille, almost certainly back amongst it for Bournemouth and stuff. But maybe Bournemouth, they're not playing great, are they, to be honest. They're right down the bottom. They're not having a particularly good season. So maybe that's one where he will look at it and think, I can, you know, mess around with it a little bit and bring Robertson back and stuff, because we know Rob will still do the job, but he's not quite the force he once was. So but I would, I'd be looking to go midfield heavy at Marseille, and as I say, just have Verts off Ekatike, and hopefully there's enough in there to get a result.
You're optimistic?
I think it's really hard, Neil. And there's been times where I actually felt weirdly that even though when we were going to Arsenal, you're thinking, you know, the sensible kind of person in you thinks, well, you're going to get beat. But I always feel like with games like that, there's a chance where you're up against it and he can be a bit more defensive and sell it to him in that manner, in that fashion, that they're likely to maybe get something similar when they went to Milan. It's when the onus is on Liverpool, you're really kind of worried about them, especially at home. So it wouldn't surprise me if they come away with something. I'm not so sure I'd expect them to go there and get a win, but certainly I could see them getting something. But listen, Marseille have got the carrots as well there. They know they're only 3 points behind Liverpool in terms of those Champions League standings. You know, I think they're currently at about 16th, Liverpool are in 9th. So they'll see it as a big opportunity to put, you know, a big win on the board and get a little bit closer to that top 8. But yeah, if Liverpool find themselves outside of that top 8, they're massively under pressure.
You optimistic?
No, but
You're not?
I'm not optimistic.
Right,
I'm not optimistic, but I believe it can be done. I just don't know what Liverpool I'm going to see on Wednesday. I mean, I'd love to see the San Siro Liverpool, but based on what I've been watching recently, if we play like we've been playing, then Marseille can do us. So it's a tough game, but I'm not going to sit here and say I want to win the European Cup and think we can't beat Marseille. We can. It's just I don't think anyone's optimistic at the minute.
No, same. Exactly the same. Really depressing note to end things on, but I don't know what we are at the moment, and I'm not optimistic about anything we do right now.
What do you think, Neil? What do you think? Because you thought like you thought they beat Burnley comfortably, didn't you? I don't think that's a bad thing to think because you played Burnley at home.
And I thought you saw part of why I thought they beat Burnley comfortably, which was Burnley's level and what I thought Liverpool would do. And that's why I was so frustrated at 1-0 really, was that there was the opportunity there to sort of to kick on and they didn't take it. If you want to ask me what I think Liverpool are at the minute, I think Liverpool are a side who are quite well equipped to do European away games. That's currently what I sort of see them as in terms of the 5 midfielders, the pace from full-back, Ekitike. For me, the biggest worry is it's a huge game for Marseille, and De Zerbi is a clever man who knows his way around facing Liverpool. And my concern about this is that De Zerbi may well have a bit of a, lads, you know, when we're going to win this, we're going to win this 70 onwards. They're going to think they've stopped us, they're going to think they've slowed us, and then we're going to do big, daft Brighton things where we make 3 or 4 subs on 65, and because we think that's when we can run all over them. And I just, you know, without being back on any sort of horse, I just think at the minute the manager turns to his bench, and I just don't think he can bring on like for like in terms of level.
Would you leave Gakpo out then?
I'd leave Gakpo out, and then at least you've got Gakpo as an attacking sub. But then you then haven't got a midfield sub to do if you do all the midfielders. You then turn around and you haven't got a midfield sub, so you've got these 4 lads who do need to carry you home for 95 to 100 minutes. You've got a left back sub. You've arguably got a right back sub in Gomez. So you've got 3 of the subs that you sort of need to be able to do it. But again, listen, I'm not going to say like Robertson, Kerkez, Gomez, Frimpong. Listen, they're all winners, if you know what I mean. So let's just call it at that. But nowhere else do I think Liverpool can do like for like. And unlike, the other thing I did say before Burnley is I would have started Ekitike. Sorry, I would have started Ngamo.
Oh yeah, you did, yeah.
And I actually think he does all right when he comes on.
I agree.
But I'm not starting him in Marseille.
No.
So, and I'm not starting him at Bournemouth.
No.
So before you know where you are, you're looking at Carabag's the earliest when you'd next consider giving him a run, and that's a different kettle. My point more being is that, you know, I like him, but he's not a like for like sub for what Liverpool should be able to do in attack. And so that's what worries me. I think if Liverpool are strong enough, then I think they can get a result. But my worry is that De Zerbi's a clever boy, and who knows also how to understand and pass Premier League football in terms of European. And I think he wanted to make it feel like a Premier League game, De Zerbi, and not like a European match. And Liverpool have got to watch that as well. All right then, that has been the Anfield Wrap this week. Thank you very much to Ian and Kieran. We will be back with more next week, but then there will also be shows running through the week. There's a gutter for you tomorrow, midweek extra on Thursday, Friday night on Friday, and the big Saturday when we will be live on YouTube going all the way through for the game against Bournemouth, which I think will be a good game of football.